Okay, the parasha begins this week. The story of the Mechiras Yosef, and the Torah tells us in such amazing detail how Yosef HaTzadik was sold into slavery. Yaakov Avinu loved Yosef more than all of the other children. The details of the sale, how he went down to Mitzrayim, all the details we find in such intricate detail, which is obviously there's a reason for that. When the Torah gives us such detail, that means that there's a lesson to be learnt. That means for our own lives, there is a lesson that we could learn. So I'd like to give you an idea that I saw from Rabbi Yitzchak Mivorka. It means a kasha on Rashi. Gvaldige Yesod, Rabbi Say. Beautiful Yesod in this week's parasha. First Rashi of the parasha. Rashi tells us on Vayeshev Yaakov. Zug Rashi, Hapishtoni, there's this flax merchant, and he's got this camel, and this camel is piled high, full of flax. Enters town, and there's a blacksmith there. You read the Rashi yourself inside. There's a blacksmith that wonders, how are we going to bring this into town? How are we going to store all of this flax? Zug Rashi, there was a clever guy, and he said to himself, you know what? Very simple. One spark, we can light up the entire pile of the flax, we could burn it all up. Zug Rashi, so too Yaakov Avinu. Yaakov Avinu saw in last week's parsha the alufim, the chiefs of Esav, that were written in the end of last week's parsha. And he wonders, Yaakov Avinu says, what am I going to do? How am I going to conquer all of these chiefs of Esav? It's too much for me. I can't manage. Chief after chief, Aleph after Aleph. It's amazing. You look at last week's parasha, you see list after list of all these chiefs of Esav. And Yaakov Avinu is like, me? How am I going to manage this? It's way too much for me. V'hoya Beis Yaakov Eish. Again, I'm quoting Rashi. In the house of Yaakov, there's a fire. In the house of Yosef, there's a flame. In the house of Esav is straw. One spark from Yosef can burn everything up. As I state in Rashi, clearly the first Rashi of the Parsha. Fred Yitzchak Mivorki asked Gakash, and he says, really? What a clever guy. Wow. Look at this clever guy. He wonders what's going to be. There's so much flax coming in. Where am I going to store it? Oh, I have an eitzah. I'll burn the whole thing down. That's a great eitzah. Now you've figured out how you're going to store all of this flax. What a beautiful eitzah. Very clever guy. Pikeach echad. What a clever guy. What's pshat? The question still stands. The question is, where are you storing all of this flax? Very nice. That one spark can burn the whole thing. It's not going to help you. I need to store the flax because I need the flax. So what's one spark going to help me? How did that answer the kasha? So Rabbi Yitzchak Mivorka, beautiful teretz. And he says, Rabbi Yisrael, this teretz, I saw this teretz last week, and I said, I've got to share this with the Olam because this is a teretz that can help every single one of us in the struggles of our lives with the Yetzer Hara. Says Rabbi Yitzchak Mivorka as follows. He says, the moment a Yid understands, the moment a person understands that all it takes is one little spark that can light up, that can burn the entire pile of all of the flax, no longer is he worried about that flax. No longer is he worried about where to store it. It doesn't look to him like this huge pile. How am I going to manage? What am I going to do? It doesn't look that way. So if that's the case, once he recognizes that just one spark can burn the whole thing down, that it doesn't look to him as this huge pile of flax, oh no, what am I going to do with him? It doesn't seem so problematic. So Rabbi Yitzchak Mivorka, Rabbi Yisai. Excuse me. Says Rabbi Yitzchak Mivorka, every single Yid has come down to this world. His neshama was on a very, very high place. Ramish by Kisei HaKavod. And the neshama is brought down into this very low, problematic world. And we're here specifically to fix ourselves up, to fight the Mulchemes HaYetzer, to fight the Yetzer Hara, this Yetzer Hara that tries to get us everywhere we turn. Whatever we do, every waking moment that we're in this world, as the Rambam says, don't trust it till the day that you die. But every moment that you're alive and every moment that you're awake, the Yetzer Hara has got another mahalach. How he's going to chap you, how he's going to get you, look over here, say this, do that. All sorts of eitzes, how to get a yid to go down. That's why we're here, to fight the Yetzer Hara. The Torah is telling us over here, a gewaldige chizuk. The Torah is telling us, don't be scared of the Alufei Esav. Don't be scared of these chiefs of Esav, and don't think, me, how am I, a little person, a small little yid, going to be able to fight, to win over this Yetzer Hara that constantly tries every moment. I'm walking on the street and all it tells me is look at this and look at this. You're on the computer, you're on the phone, all it tells you is look at this, press this. Wherever you're doing a conversation, tell that juicy bit of Lashon Hara. Everywhere you go, there's a Yetzer Hara chapping you in every direction you go. What are you going to do? How am I going to fight this? Well, I'm never going to win. I'm never going to overcome. It's huge. Aluf Esav, one after the other. Me, I'm not going to be able to conquer this. So no, making a mistake. Because, yes, it looks impossible when you look at it as a camel full of flax. I can't do it. I'm not going to manage. But here comes the Pikeach, here comes the clever guy in Rashi, that Rashi says. And that is, don't worry. Because know that within every yid is a spark. And within that spark, it can burn all of the flax. And therefore it no longer looks to me like this huge pile of flax on a camel. And when a person recognizes and he really understands that he has that spark in him, and that spark can fire up, can burn all of the flax, it no longer looks to him like a camel that's full of flax. The Alufei Esav that he was worried about doesn't look so bad. Mimela, when a person realizes, yes, the Yetzer Hara is going to get me. That's his job. That's why we're here on this world. But when we recognize what we have inside every single one of us, when we understand the intrinsic value, when we know the fire, the Eish, that the Rabbeinu Shalom gave us in our neshama, we can burn it all down. And therefore, once we know that, says Rashi in this week's parasha from the Pikeach, once we know that one spark can burn the whole thing down, it doesn't look to us anymore as this incredible challenge that we're not able to overcome. That's what the Torah is telling us over here. The Torah is telling us, after last week, Alufei Esav, one after the other, how am I going to manage all these Yetzer Haras from every direction? All of a sudden we have now Vayeshev Yaakov, and Rashi gives us the chizuk. Never worry about the nisyonos that you face. Never worry about the challenges that come your way, and they will, as we've mentioned here before. They may seem to you huge. They may seem to you, I'm never going to overcome this. I'm never going to get there. I'm not going to win. I'm going to lose. I haven't got the koyach. I haven't got the power. No. Zuk Rashi, no. You can manage. You can do this. Because every single yid has this spark, this fire, this eish inside him that has the ability to do so much. And when you recognize that, you can overcome every challenge. You can kill every Yetzer Hara. And you can come out victorious, you can come out as winning. Reb Tzadok HaKohen writes in Tzidkas HaTzadik, he says everybody has to know their chesronos. You have to know what your chesronos are, what you're failing at, what you're not good at, what your negative traits are. Everybody has to know that. So Reb Tzadok HaKohen, oy vavoy, if a yid doesn't know his milas. You have to know your milas, you have to know what you're good at, what you're positive at, what you can accomplish. All the things that you have accomplished, look at that. That's what it is. We've got so much inside every single one of us. We're full of so much koyach. We've got so much value that the Rabbeinu Shalom intrinsically put inside us. We don't recognize it. We don't realize it. It's only when we start to recognize the godless that the Rabbeinu Shalom put in every single one of us. Now we can fight our Yetzer Hara. Now we can manage to overcome it. The Heilige Sfas Emes brings a famous medrash, where the medrash says, the Sfas Emes is masber amongst many, that if Reuven would have known that the Torah would write, Vayishma Reuven Yatzileu Miyadam, that Reuven was the one that saved Yosef HaTzadik. Zuk the Medrash, he would have brought Yosef back to his father on his shoulders. He would have come back celebrating. The Torah is writing that about me? Frag the Sfar Semes, 1 minute. Really? Reuven's doing everything for covet? He likes the covet. Look what the Torah is writing about me. Zuk the Sfar Semes, no, avada nisht. So the Sfar Semes, not doing it for covet. But he didn't recognize the small action that he did had such huge ramifications. He didn't recognize that the small thing that he did could change the future of Klal Yisrael. And Rabbi Isai, I want to tell you a story. True story. Gavaldig Maisa, which I think very much teaches us this Yesod. There was a Rav in Miami, in a shul called Beis Yisrael, Beth Israel, Rav Mordechai Shapiro. He tells over this story from himself. He talks about himself. He says over this story about him. He said he came to Eretz Yisrael. It was 1952. He came to Eretz Yisrael in 1952, and on Friday he notices like a small kiosk that's selling, various snacks, candies, cigarettes, newspapers, whatever it is before Shabbos people are going in to buy. And there was an elderly yid that was sitting behind the counter in the kiosk, with a long beard, and he was sitting behind the counter, and he was like shuckling backwards and forwards. And he looked at him, it looked very interesting. This yid sitting by the kiosk, it's Friday, it's Erev Shabbos, big beard, and he's shuckling backwards and forwards. And he noticed when someone came to buy a newspaper, he took off, he looked up, he sold him the newspaper, and then he continued. He noticed he had a sefer in front of him, he was learning the whole time. Someone came to buy something, he stopped. He sold him the item, and then he continued learning in that case. So Mordechai Shapiro said that he crossed the road, and a few minutes later someone came to ask, can I please buy some cigarettes? So he said, excuse me, the kiosk owner, the guy behind the counter, said, what time is it? Looked at the clock, he said, it's 12:15. So I'm so sorry, I don't sell cigarettes on Erev Shabbos after Chatzos. He was worried that maybe someone will be Machal Shabbos. Anyone that's buying cigarettes after Chatzos and Erev Shabbos, maybe Machal Shabbos. I have a shita that I don't sell cigarettes after Chatzos. So Mordechai Shapiro is looking at this, he's observing this, he's like, okay, this is no regular yid. This is someone, he's sitting and learning the whole time, he doesn't sell cigarettes after Chatzos and Erev Shabbos. Who is this yid? What's going on? So he started a conversation with him. He started a conversation with this old yid, and he asked him his name. His name is Yaakov Ockensgrog. Okay, very good. So he said, Mordechai Shapiro said, I'm from America. So the man behind the counter said, I used to know a young bocha in the city of Minsk by the name of Arkel Swaslatza. Okay. I heard that he became a very big Yid in Torah, and he's in America now. You're in America, so you ever heard of him? I guess he never met an American Yid. He said, did you ever hear of this Yid? So Mordechai Shapiro is like, are you serious? That's Rabbaran Kotler. That's Rabbaran. That's the Rabbaran, the Rosh Hashiva of Beis Medrash Gevara BMG. Mamish, the Rosh Mayetzes Gedolei HaTorah. Someone that had changed the face of Torah in Klal Yisrael in America for sure. How do you know him? What do you mean you knew him, like in Minsk? What does it mean? Well, tell me the story. So he said, I'll tell you the story. He says, I haven't lived in Israel all my life. I came here after the war. I used to be a butcher in Minsk. And for every kilo of meat that I sold in my butcher store, I put aside a kopek to support Torah. I wanted to support Torah. So for every kilo of meat, I put aside a little kopek to be able to give chizuk to Talmidei Chachamim, to Bachrim, in order to support Torah. So I used to use that money when it amassed to be a nice amount, and I would hire malamdim, I would hire rebbes, in order to teach, the little kids, the Yisomim, the kids that were roaming the streets, whatever it was. There was this genius kid, this little boy, and when he was 14 years old, we decided that Minsk wasn't the place for him. We need to send him to one of the big yeshivas, the big names, to learn on a higher level. He was a goyin, he was a genius at the age of 14. We need to send him somewhere, somewhere bigger. Now, it was also dangerous in Minsk at the time. There was a Haskalah movement starting, so it was dangerous. People getting in conversations of all sorts of, things to get the, Yidden out of Yiddishkeit and whatever. So I used all the money that I had in order to buy him a train ticket for this boy specifically this boy, Arkel, this boy, and another boy, I don't remember his name right now, there was another boy also. These two boys needed to go to a better yeshiva to learn on a high level, so I took all the money, and I felt it was a chosh of a cause, and I bought them a train ticket, and off they went. I think they went to Slobodka, he said, okay, and that's the last thing I heard of them, apart from the fact that they, I heard they became big rabbis in America or something like that. Now, Rabbi said, let's just take a step back for a moment. The entire Torah in America, and that spread to the entire world. The rebuilding of Torah in America, right? Chinuch Atzmi system in Eretz Yisrael, right? The Vada Atzola, that was very much, Agudas Yisrael, all of these organizations, all of these things that helped and saved Klal Yisrael, was literally started by a man behind a kiosk named Rabbi Yaakov Ockensgrug. Unbelievable thing. And guess what? He didn't even know what he did. He had no idea what he accomplished. He bought a train ticket for two guys. He had no idea what happened to them. Little did he know, the small Maisa that he did caused two Yidden to leave Minsk to go to a big yeshiva. One of them became the Rosh Yeshiva of BMG and completely changed not only Lakewood but America. A tiny small deed of giving someone money for a train ticket saved America, saved the face of Klal Yisrael after the war. And he didn't even know that he did it. And by the way, the story doesn't end there, because years later, Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky, the Rosh of Torah Vodaas, one of the Gedolim in America, he was in Miami, he was in Ramot Shapiro's home, and Ramot Shapiro tells him over the story. And Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky says, wow, I was the second boy. I was the other boy. So Rabbi say, here's a Maisa of someone that did something, that didn't even know what they did, and with their small action changed the face of America and the world of Torah at large. Rabbi Yitzchak Mevorka is telling us a Gavaldig Yesod in this week's parasha, and that is, every single one of us, look into yourself. We have no idea the deeds that we do. We have no idea the impressions that it can make on us, on the people around us, and on Klal Yisrael and the world. The smallest actions that we do can change things forever. Don't underestimate who you are. Don't underestimate what you can accomplish. Because as Rashi tells us, one small spark can light a fire to all of the flax, and it no longer is a problem. Yes, the Yetzer Hara is on fire, and the way, says the Nesiv Shalom, to fight fire is with fire, and we all have that fire inside us. Every single one of us has mole full of fire inside us that we can fight the Yetzer Hara when we recognize who we are, when we recognize what we can accomplish and what we can do. We can fight any Yetzer Hara that comes our way, and we can accomplish anything. And what we realize is that the smallest action can change not only ourselves and those around us, can possibly change the world. Have a wonderful day.